You ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon.
Welcome to the Roundtable, everybody. My name is Robert Bannon. You're listening to us on Broadway World, or listening to us on the Broadway Podcast Network, or on YouTube, or on social media, or wherever you're listening to us. We're happy that you're here. I'm excited to be here. I'm fascinated by Rita Costanzi. She's like my paisan because she's a good Italian girl, and she's got a Catholic family. And as my last name is Bannon, but my mom is Rose Antonia DiMeglio, and we grew up in Jersey, and we went to church every Sunday, and Italian people are crazy. So Rita's she has a show where she takes her harp and then tells her story. And then there's a man and there's an Italian family. And I'm fascinated because you don't hear a lot of harpists just deciding to put on a big old one-person show and get rave reviews. So Rita Costanzi, welcome to the Roundtable.
Thank you, Robert. It's so nice to be here and so lovely to meet you.
Rita, you're an Italian, obviously.
I'm Calabresa. That's even worse.
And so my grandmother Vincenza Verge, she is also if you're Calabria is the toe of the boot. So she is from Calabria as well. We could be related, Rita.
Well, Calabria is actually ankle to toe. There are three regions of Calabria, and thank God I'm in the northern one, Cosenza. So I'm bad, but not quite as bad, right?
So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Rochester, New York, but my grandfathers, one came from Napoli and the other from Cosenza, Calabria.
So my grandmother's from Calabria. My grandfather is from Ischia, which is an island off Naples. And so I get it. I know your whole story already, Rita. That's it. The interview's over. My mom lived your life. She had those parents. So for you, fascinated because you're a musician.
Yes, I am.
You chose the harp.
I didn't choose the harp, Robert. The harp chose me.
Okay, tell me about it.
Well, it was a destiny drop in the lap type of thing. Yes, my father was a distinguished professor of viola at the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York. I grew up in this very rare kind of family. And his colleague, the harp professor, had been given some small harps by the factory line in Healy in Chicago. They wanted her to run an experimental class and see if children could take to the harp. And so she corralled, she called all her colleagues who had small children who had had a bit of piano. And the call came into my home, and my parents said, "Do you want to be in this little experiment?" And I said, "I guess, sure, why not?" I mean, I never thought of the harp. I was playing violin, I was playing piano. But when I entered the room and the harp was put on my shoulder, that was it, the star of destiny. And it was no looking back after that.
Rita, I have a very good friend who plays in the pit of a Broadway show, who plays the viola. And I tease my friend Drew because I tell him that I think there's only 3 viola players in the whole world. And I think there's maybe 4 harpists, because you don't think of that as the instrument. But then, Rita, not only did you take to the harp, but you made it your career. Like, it's not like you did it in high school. Like people said, I played the saxophone in 6th grade. You made that your life. That's not easy.
Well, I made it even more difficult, Robert, because I was told that the only real career for a harpist is either the big symphony job or teaching at a university. And I tried both of those, and I was not lined up at all. And I quit. The world was absolutely, shocked. For me, it's a vocation. It's not a job. And I've starved and I've done all of those things. But and this is in the play, I have stayed true to my calling. And what I'm doing now, being on stage, bringing the harp in this very intimate way to an audience where they don't get it this way when they're at a big symphony orchestra concert. It's in the back, you hardly hear it. I've waited a whole lifetime to be able to do this, and now it's fulfilling this dream.
We're here to talk about Woman on a Ledge, which is playing until the 24th. And I want people to know about it, and I want people to be able to get tickets. We're going to talk more about what exactly you're going to see, because it's so fascinating to me about this kind of harp theater.net/monologue, one person show life story. And if you want to get tickets, theaterforthenewcity.net is where you can get your tickets. And if you want to go to Rita's website, you could go to ritacostanzi.com. The information is going to be below us if you're listening to us as well. Where did the idea for you to write? I know you've done like films, documentary, things have been done about you, people have spoken about you, but it's one thing to talk about it like we're talking, and it's another thing to be in front of an audience and step behind the harp and tell a story and play. So where did this idea come from?
Okay, so we have to go way back to childhood, where I'd stand on a chair and entertain the family all night by everything I saw on TV. Okay, that's one
I
story.
get that.
There was the moment in the Eastman Theater when my mother took me to see Marcel Marceau. And that was a defining moment in my life, that night of utter silence, seeing this great artist on stage, pantomime, the one light on his face. And it just absolutely struck me. And I never forgot it, Robert. I was never allowed to be in a play at school. But in 1996, I met a real life playwright. I was living in Vancouver, Canada at the time. And I said, I'm the daughter of a famous musician, and I've gone through a lot, and I want to really delayer now. And I'm intuiting that I need to do some acting, but I don't want to do it publicly, privately. I don't want to be the famous harpist. I want to do it privately. And can you help me? And instead, he submitted to a Seedlings project an idea called Harp and Solo, where I'm dressed as Bogart. I'm dressed as a man in disguise, and it takes place on a concert hall stage, and I delayer, only I do it in public. And I was discovered. My acting ability was discovered. And when I moved to New York, I was accepted by Hal Prince's associate, Arthur Masella. And I've been developing 4 different scripts that were written for me, where I tell my story, act, and play the harp and underscore. And when I met Hershey Felder, he was the one, he was going to produce the play I had been doing. And he said, no, this does not maximize your ability as a harpist or as an actor. I'm going to write something that I can produce, that I can market. And he's written me the most incredible script. And then COVID came, so he moved back to Italy, and our paths diverged. But I'm so grateful to him, because this is now the real deal. This is my life story, a full dramatic script accompanied by classical harp solo, Celtic harp solo. We've even got New York in there. And I am told that this is making theater history, because we can't find, have been gentlemen who have done one-man shows impersonating Harpo, but to our knowledge, there is no solo woman show ever that has been done like this, accompanied with classical harp.
It's got to be a tour de force, everybody, to see this, because you are telling emotion. I mean, it's an emotional story.
Yes.
You're talking about family, the past, your rise, the good, the bad, the ugly, relationships, struggle, all of it. And then you sit down and have to play in front of people who you're just literally wearing your heart on your sleeve.
Yes.
How has it been cathartic for you to get these stories out every night in front of an audience? And it's scary.
Yeah, so during lockdown, when the world shut down and all my friends were doing Zoom cocktails, I was pacing in my living room, memorizing this 46-page script. And Robert, every day when I ran it, at some point I raged, another point I wept, another point that was the catharsis. And the day that I got through the script and was absolutely intact emotionally was the day I knew I had healed. So I'm grateful to Hershey for that as well, because at that point, of course, the future was very, dim. No one knew whether there would be a future, let alone am I ever getting an opportunity to do it on stage. And I workshopped it at my classical music festival in Kansas then in 2021 for an audience of over 200 people. And many women wept. Many men were very deeply moved. And person after person told me they were riveted. And that was the testing ground for me to see whether I should pursue this. So I'm very grateful to Theater for the New City, Crystal Field, artistic director. I'm very grateful to my own director, Lissa Moira, for believing. She loves the harp, thank you God, and she believed in this script. And she gave me this opportunity now to bring.
Well, you took this up. You took it and ran, and it's up, and the reviews have been coming in. They've been great reviews. People have been very moved about what you're doing. Who is this show for? Like, is it for music lovers? Is it for women? Is it for everyone? Is it for people? Like, who and what do you hope we leave feeling?
Well, that's always the question I'm asked, and it's a difficult question because doing it at a classical music festival, of course, they were all classical music aficionados in the audience. I'm told, yes, it's a woman's story. And yes, it's an older woman's story. And I don't hide my age. I've just turned 70. I am starting a whole new life, and I want to be a role model for other women my age, that you don't have to roll over and play dead after 65. So, and I'm thrilled about that. And so it's for women, it's for husbands of women, it's for men as well, to hear the story of a woman told so honestly and so with such vulnerability. And the word vulnerable means to see through. And yes, I am courageous in the fact that I am telling this story and I'm not leaving anything out. And it's for classical musicians, classical music aficionados who, again, solo harp is such a rare thing. We are marginalized. This is in the story as well. They told my famous father, oh, too bad she doesn't play piano or violin. Then we could do something with her. She's so gifted. Just her talent's wasted on that instrument. Well, my answer to that is, do we need any more pianists or violinists? No, we need some harpists who play music. So here I am. And it's also for music students or anyone who has a passion, because the play really brings out it's not only about the love affair of a woman or her man, her lover. It's a story about an artist for her instrument. And how that love affair of the artist and the instrument saves her at the end when she's completely destitute.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about the personal part, the relationship part that you talk about in the piece, and in the press release, it talks about an all-consuming. It uses language this was a serious relationship that almost, it sounds as devastating as it could be. Did you have to choose between your love of music and a love of this person? Was the music the saving grace at the end of whatever? I don't want to spoil what the story is, but at the end, music saves you.
Music saves me at the end. I had to leave the marriage. We don't go into quite the nitty gritty. The ex-husband is still alive and the children are there. And there's no wish to vilify in any way. There's a wish to tell my story honestly, delicately. And without going into too many details, it's alluded to that the husband drank a lot. And I was in a situation finally that I was a financially dependent wife. And finally, the fear of being out on my own financially was less than the fear of staying in an abusive relationship that was destroying me. And that was a testament to my love for him. I stayed many years longer than maybe woulda, shoulda, coulda, or that another woman would have done had I had the full-time job and been independent financially.
Wow. I'm going to keep saying wow. I know a lot of people who would be very moved by that story, that it's got nothing to do with music for them, but just the idea. And women, Rita, seem to often stay for kids and stay in relationships or be dependent on someone and put up I know my own mom, puts up with so much and has put up with so much to make sure that you're there for your family and your kids. And I'm always give so much
Exactly.
love to moms and wives out there, because they're the most selfless people in the entire world, truly.
Yes,
Um,
it's true. And you give and you give and you give. At least I can't speak for others. For myself, there wasn't much self-love. It was all love for him and love for the children and the conflict. And this is brought up in the play too, the three things: the husband, the children, the harp. And always conflicted, when I'm serving the husband, the other two are off to the side. When I'm on stage, I'm worrying about the children. Is the babysitter taking good care of them? And then, of course, this volatile relationship with the husband and I, he being a professional violinist and two careers, and, whose concert is more important that week. And it was just a challenge through and through. And to reach this age, and of course, I'm grateful I left after the children were grown and gone. So it didn't involve, it always hurts, but not as if they were little, of course. And to be free now, to have healed, that was the important thing, because this was a 41-year relationship and a 35-year marriage. So to leave that and all of that history and all of that baggage, it took me a long time to work through. But now I'm my own authority. I stand on stage with emotional authenticity, and I speak my truth for the first time in my life. No more codepending. I speak my truth, and my voice is like thunder, and my audience trembles.
I know from my mother to I've related to so much of your story myself. I think there's so many people who can relate and be moved by your story, and you at the end here today, meaning and not the end, but getting to tell the story and have it is the most powerful thing, to pay it forward so that people can hear it. Can you tell us a little bit for you in terms of the music? I know that you do some very famous pieces. You gave us a little, but can you give us a little tidbit about the musical part? Is it broken into sections? Is it you talk a little, then you sit and you play and you tell us a little bit more? And are there things, you said New York, New York, but there's familiar pieces that we may know?
Probably the 3 or 4 most familiar pieces would be, of course, New York, New York would be number one. The second would be the 2 Celtic pieces I play, the Garden Mother's Lullaby and My Love is Like a Red, Red Rose. So many people come up and tell me how much they love hearing that. There's the famous Albinoni Adagio, which is
Okay.
To Die For. And then the lesser known pieces are by Marcel Tournier, one of our great classical French harpists. But the theme song actually is a transcription of Franz Liszt's Un Sospiro, which was the solo piano piece that's been used for many movie soundtracks and things. And that's what I begin and end with. And that is probably very recognizable for people as well.
Ooh, I hope people can go. Everybody, theaterforthenewcity.net is where you got to get your tickets while we're talking, and you can get your tickets. You could go to ritacostanzi.com as well. And so what do you, when this is all said and done, I'm going to be like, Rita, you want to play at my wedding? You perform, like now you're an actor and a musician, and so how do you differentiate? Are you looking to make more music? Are you looking to be playing with different groups? Are you looking to act? Like, how do you decide what's next?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Robert. I do have a somewhat of a classical career. I'm going to Brazil again in January to teach at the largest classical music festival in Latin America. I've traveled to Bulgaria and Poland, Australia, Canada. I teach master classes, I give recitals, and I do a little bit of playing locally, not so much, because really what I'm doing at Theater for the New City is the big dream. And of course, the next step would be off Broadway and touring.
Yes.
And this is what I was supposed to be a Hershey Felder Presents artist in his theaters around North America. And now that he's mostly, doing film work from his new home in Italy, it's about just putting it out there and seeing what where it's meant to land and how. And I wanted to add that I not only act, storytell, and play the harp, there are moments where I'm speaking and playing at the same time. I'm underscoring. And that means keeping track of 7 pedals and the music. And people are quite amazed. It was, weeks and days and months and years of very hard work, multitasking. But this is the uniqueness of the piece, and I'm very grateful to have arrived at this point. Yeah.
Folks, you hear that? 7 pedals, telling her life story while playing the harp. Woman on a Verge, right there till the 24th. The shows are Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 8 o'clock, and then Sundays at 3 p.m. You can get your tickets. You can get your tickets, like, it's as reasonable. What a date. Like, you want to have, there's no excuse. Rita has made it as accessible, and the people over there at Theater for the New City have made it accessible for you to get a ticket and bring your loved ones or your friends or whoever you think may need to hear this. It sounds like the perfect girls' night out to me. Take your friends and go be empowered together and have a glass of wine and listen to her play. You've been doing it. You meet people after the show. I'm assuming people see you. What is it like when people tell you it moves them and they see themselves up there, or they hear something or inspired by your story in some way?
I must tell you, Robert, it's the greatest gift an artist could receive. On Sunday's matinee, that was my special birthday matinee, that was oversold out. Many people were weeping, and some men were weeping. And a young woman came up, and I held her in my arms while she sobbed. And I just, in Kansas, women were writing me their stories, thanking me for being vulnerable and writing their stories. And I want to bring in something important because, of course, our world now is very much youth oriented, and elders are kind of, pushed to the side often, and especially in this industry, often overlooked. And I don't know if you've heard of the famous author Gail Sheehy, who wrote Passages. And then she wrote a sequel called Pathfinders, and she traces the biographies of Churchill, Sabat, de Gaulle. And they each had a period in their lives of 10 to 15 years where they thought their political fortunes had ended, and they were recluse, they withdrew from society, became recluses, and did an enormous amount of inner work, introspection, healing, some in prison. Nelson Mandela comes to mind. And then history called them out in the most extraordinary way, and they stepped out and fulfilled their greatest destiny as leaders. And for 11 years, I withdrew after my divorce. I was completely devastated. I didn't know if I could go on. I didn't know if I had a reason to go on. And slowly peeled the layers and did the healing, and never thought that I would reach this moment of such resilience and strength. And Gail Sheehy, in the book, the chapter is called Withdrawal, Comeback, Transcendence. And I would love older women to really know that there is transcendence awaiting them, and come and experience it in this show.
Ooh, well, I implore you all, everybody who has hear the sounds of our voice or sees us right now, make sure if you're in the New York area, you are there. Make sure you follow the website. And for more dates, fingers crossed, I'm sure we'll work on more places to have this show out and about. And if you're going to be in the New York area up until the 24th, so right before maybe you're coming in for Thanksgiving or ready to see, you're back in the city or you're in the tri-state area, make sure you come in and see the show to the 24th. We want everyone to go, of course, to the website. You can go to theaterforthenewcity.net, or you can go to ritacostanzi.com as well. Thank you for sharing this incredible story.
Thank you, Robert, for having me. Thank
you for the years of, for you to do what you do takes dedication. It takes a lot of discipline, perseverance, and absolute God-given talent. So thank you for using it and keeping going and giving us this. It is our gift for sure.
Thank you, Robert, and all the best. I appreciate it.